was going to mute myself.
Mr. Tack, are you able to see the agenda?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Ready when you are.
Okay, can we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending the Academic Affairs meeting. You can see our agenda there. The first item up on that is the update on our SEL program. And I'd like Mrs. Kistler and Mrs. Cartwright. Mrs. Kistler, if you'd like to give us an update, please.
Mrs. Kistler, Ms. Cartwright, can you hear us?
I can hear. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Ms. Cartwright, are you?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. So I just did want to give a quick update. So I know that the last the discussion we were talking about the CASEL guidance that we were using in coordination with representatives from the IU to get our SEL programming up and off the ground. Since the last academic affairs meeting, we did establish a team of vested individuals that would include guidance counselors, school psychologists, the social workers, the principals at the elementary center, myself, and Mrs. Courtwright. From there, we had a conversation about the 5 core competencies within SEL with teachers at a faculty meeting, and then we broke them out into their grade levels and specialty areas to complete a brief survey just to collect a little bit more information. The information that we were looking at were current, strengths that they could identify within the core competencies in their grade level, continued areas of need, just to help us focus help us create a focus area when we're creating curriculum and looking at planning for lessons that are going to be implemented in the classroom at the end of this year and next year. Going forward, our next step in this process is to create a parent presentation about a parent and community presentation about basically what SEL is, the importance of SEL within a school building, parents' roles in SEL, and areas that they think need to be worked on, and areas that we should focus on when we're looking at instruction.
I do know that there was a meeting this afternoon down there at the elementary center. And also, if we could just, I know a survey was taken and we will be tallying those results, correct?
Yes, so we have them completed again by grade level and by specialty area, whether they were an on-core teacher or a related service provider, and what their insights were in, current SEL competencies within students in school.
Okay, could you just give a brief synopsis of like the survey, roughly how many questions or anything of that nature?
So yeah, the survey just basically asked them their area that they were completing this for, their grade level, or whether they were an on-core teacher. Then it went through the 5 core competencies. What do they currently touch on in their classrooms? How do they touch on it? What are strengths that they traditionally see of a student within their grade level or within their classroom? And then it continued to ask them areas of need. that they continue to see. We also did then ask for a representative from each group to join the SEL team, just to help in the planning processes, to create that vested interest from each grade level.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Cartwright, anything else?
No, Mrs. Kistler really touched upon everything. I would say that it was a good response from most of the faculty in regards to being excited to get this on board, understanding it. I apologize, my little one's noisy in the background, but we just were able to briefly skim some of the responses, and it was very encouraging to see that the responses that we did see thus far, again, we have more to look at, but the responses that we were seeing were very in alignment with what we were also discussing as a core team. So it's encouraging to see that we are all under the same understanding of the needs that our students have. And as Mrs. Kistler said, we are excited to make this full circle. And, a next step is to look out to see what parents' concerns are and the community, and to get this program set up so that way we can have an effective program set up for everybody, so that this SEL implementation works the way it should work. So it's very encouraging to see where we're at, the steps that we're taking to get there, not just throwing this in quickly and making it more of a headache than it should be. So we are excited with where we're heading.
Okay. Do we also have, I know you're talking about like with the survey and putting all that together and stuff. Do we have a timeline, what we're looking at? And I know we will be putting that on the website. We'll be posting it. We'll be doing different things, sending home information to parents and so forth. But any idea, timeline, what we're looking at there?
So I would like to have that out within the next 2 weeks, just because at our next in-service day, we're going to be looking at starting to plan, some of the instructional areas that we need to focus on. And I think that data will be important for our team to look at, to kind of, drive the areas that we need to consider when we're looking at each theme and each category that we're going to touch on throughout the year. So we definitely want to have that data for the May in-service day so that we can analyze it beforehand and use that to drive our decision making.
And I think we've also discussed before at our core team that we really would like to get something set up to begin for next school year is the goal. But again, it's not something that we just want to throw in just to do it and to say we're doing it. This is something that needs to be done effectively. So getting all this data, like Mrs. Kistler has said, is something that we are taking very seriously. We want to look into, we want to, get all aspects of that before we really put an implementation plan into place for all of this. So that's where we kind of are at with that.
Okay, and that, I know the in-service day in May is Friday, May 7th. And then also, once we have that survey all set to go, then we can send out an alert now district-wide. We can do a couple different dates of reminders and so forth. We can do both through voicemail as well as email alert.
Yeah. And one thing I had forgot I wanted to mention, just in some of the reading and webinars that we have done, one of the big things that has been brought up was that making sure that your teachers are comfortable and are prepared. And that is one thing that I know Mrs. Kistler, Mrs. Volsky, Mr. Sedlin's been on conversations, myself. We have talked about utilizing a jigsaw method to get the teachers the information and learning about what SEL is, what the expectations are, what we want to see the results to be, the differences between the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then utilizing that jigsaw method to teach them and have them go back to teach their grade levels as well. We're looking just to do methods to help the staff be as involved and utilize those teaching methods and instructions to also model what would be effective SEL practices for within their classroom. So there is a lot of thought going on behind it. There is a lot of discussion happening. Again, we want to make sure we get that all set up so that way we make sure we can share the correct information as well with parents on ways that students can practice these skills at home. One of the big things is saying that students will learn these skills most effectively in the regular ed classroom, because that is when they are guaranteed to be around other same age peers. So having it implemented and being effective in the schools is going to be critical, but then allowing us to teach parents and discuss with parents and community members how we can streamline this out into the homes and the community. So we are, I think, I'm very thankful for Mrs. Kistler and Mrs. Wolski and Mr. Seblin and everyone else on the team for getting this in place and implemented. I think it's going to be an effective practice, and I think that we are on a great start, a great path to success for this.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the update. As we move forward, like you said, we will definitely be keeping everyone involved and informed. When we get closer to that with the survey, we'll definitely have those announcements coming out to the public. And like I said, we can do the alert now with the call as well as the email. And we'll definitely make sure we have a couple different dates of notice so that they're all set when they know the survey. They have ample time to complete that and get it back into us. So thank yous and kudos on a great job.
Tim, before you release
Yes.
Ms. Cartwright and Ms. Kistler, who on the board is attending these meetings that this group is having? Are any of the board members involved in any of these meetings related to the Castle Wheel?
As of this moment, no, there have been none in attendance.
How come? Are they invited?
We can do that. It would be during the day. It's like in the morning when we usually have our meetings. And that's fine.
Why are they not been invited in the past? I know the last two academic affairs committee meetings that was discussed, and they were trying to put a team together. We volunteered to be a team, but we were not notified at all of when these activities were taking place. I think it would be valuable to have that oversight.
Okay, and we can do that for our next one. I'll have to discuss with Mrs. Cartwright and Mrs. Kistler when they're looking for the next date, and we will get that out then.
And in reference to the interactive SEL framework on Castle for between self-awareness and the self-management portions of that wheel, I didn't hear, how are we working those angles as well?
All of the core competencies will be covered throughout the course of the school year in different thematic lessons. Again, each of the core competencies has specific skills that students look at. So, if you're looking at maybe for our, and again, this is going to be driven by community and parent involvement. This is going to be driven by more teacher thoughts on what they see as needs in their classroom. So it's going to look different depending upon what grade level we're talking about. So in a kindergarten and a first grade classroom, they might need help recognizing those emotions. And that can be something that we can talk about. When your face is red, your hands are clenched, you're feeling angry, what are some ways that we can work through that? For an upper elementary, a fourth and a fifth grade, some of the topics might need to change into, into more advanced and more mature topics dependent upon the grade level that we're working at. So they will all be addressed throughout thematic units. It's just going to all be dependent upon, again, area of need and the maturity level of the audience that we're working with, as to what they will be able to, the parameters they'll be able to work within.
And we're planning for each individual staff member in the government agency here to have this training, understanding, and to be able to mitigate those risks immediately? Or are they going to call someone in to say, hey,
for something that's more of an extreme or emergent need, we would definitely be looking at more of, a threat assessment team. And we currently have that in place where, if we're concerned about a student, one of my school psychologists will complete a threat assessment. But at this point in time, we're not talking about, we will eventually have tier 2 and tier 3 groups and topics of intervention. But at this point, our main focus is starting to look at whole group instruction of things that can be implemented within the classroom.
And does the district have access to a Moxie yet? Are you familiar with the Moxie robot? Interactive?
No, I'm not, Mr. Bradley. No.
Okay. Does the district have access to one of those yet at all? So no one, we haven't reviewed that yet?
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, it's basically, it's a tool. It's a tool used by institutions, educational learning centers, and even families for presenting the individual child or person with a, I'll use the term AI, right? It reminds me of Big Hero 6, right? It's a little mini robot that sits on the table and has this conversation and has an interactive conversation with individuals that are prone to have these outbursts, would be the term.
Okay, I did
Explosive
just look
children.
that up. I did just look it up through their website. We do
Oh, great.
not
So you're
currently
familiar?
utilize a tool like that. I mean, that can certainly be something that we could look into if we need to for kids that need more a higher level of intervention. But again, like I said, what our focus is at this point is just to look at, lessons that can be taken into the classroom in the form of morning meeting or more structured lessons, to target classrooms as a whole.
And I agree. I firmly agree that the entire staff should be educated to these levels. I thought that was a interesting tool used by other institutions and individuals. To have access to that tool might be valuable, and therefore might be beneficial for the government to look at that on a budget scenario, because you're right now in the heat of budget season. It's not the most expensive device in the world. It costs about as much as a laptop. However, I think that it would help with the education to the rest of the world inside of our community if one was made available to you. Maybe I'll arrange to have that happen. Okay, thank you.
And you said that was a Moxie, Mr. Bradley?
Yeah, it's called Moxie, Tim.
Okay.
It's a device. And like
Oh,
Ms. Cartwright was able to Google it right away and pull it right up. It's pretty common in the
okay.
industry for this issue.
Okay. We'll definitely take a look. Thank you. Okay. The next item we're looking at there on the agenda is our PA assessment update. I'm going to ask, first of all, with Mrs. Volsky, if she could start with grades 3, 4, and 5, and then we'll go to Dr. McGullough with middle school, and then to the high school with Mrs. Holland and Mr. Brown. We are definitely going to be going ahead with the assessments. I know an announcement just came out regarding that with the state and so forth on the federal level, but we are going to move forward and use this as a tool to help assess our students and find out weaknesses and gaps and so forth. And we'll be looking to do that in the end of May and June. So I'll turn it over to Mrs. Volsky, and she could start with grades 3, 4, and 5 with the PSSAs.
Good evening, everybody. So we will be doing our PSSAs starting June 1st. We will be doing ELA Section 1 on June 2nd. We're going to do ELA Section 2. And on June 3rd, we're going to do ELA Section 3. Monday, June 7th, we're going to do Math Section 1. On Tuesday, June 8th, we're going to do Math Section 2. And then for my 4th graders who take the PSSA for Science, we will be doing Science, both Sections 1 and 2 on Wednesday, June 9th.
And this information we will have posted, on our website for parents. And I know Alert Now calls will be going out in emails prior to that, stressing the importance, of them taking it serious. and trying that we can definitely get a benchmark and move from that point. For middle school,
Tim, hold on a
go
second.
ahead.
For the grade school PSSAs, we understand it's a pretty difficult environment we're currently in with some hybrid and some running around. Is the stress level of our students and or staff members getting to a situation where interaction should take place? We're getting a lot of rumblings in the field related to, how do I put it politely, aggressive bullying type tactics of the staff related to some of these students that may or may not be conforming to what you're aiming for. Are we address those issues properly, and are they beyond us now?
Yes, I mean, all
I
honesty,
believe, Mr. Bradley, we're talking about the PSSAs and the stress levels. So our teachers are preparing the students to be as prepared as possible to take these assessments as our high school has just finished up the Keystones. So our staff is working diligently to make sure that the students are prepared to do the best they can. And our kids always work as hard as they could. They're fantastic with, taking these type of standardized tests.
Thank you, Mr. Kleber. I was leaning more towards the stress level of our staff with the upcoming PSSAs, but I appreciate your input. Mr. Tack, you want to finish that comment because you were on the right path there.
Well, what I was just going to say is that if any parent decides that their child, they don't want them to have to take the test, all they have to do is just sign like a written paper, a statement to us, and turn it in so that we have that on file for the state. And that's all the parent has to do. And they're made aware of that prior to the testing. And there's no arm twisting or anything of that nature. And especially in light of everything that's going on this past year. And the good thing is it does not count against them. We won't be using that as any type of growth model or anything else of that nature. So it's basically, as to us, it's a win-win because it's a situation that we can get a feel to see where they stand. If they don't want to do it and they have the stress level, then all we ask is that they just sign a paper saying that, they asked for their child not to be administered those tests, and that's honored. That's no problem.
I was more concerned about the staff members, our teachers, as they get ready to prepare these kids for this process. We're hearing complaints of aggressive behavior towards, maybe it's not related to PSSA at all. It could just be aggressive behavior, but from an academic affairs standpoint, I'm under the impression maybe Mr. McGalla can address this, but we just want to make sure that those issues have been addressed. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. McGalla?
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we are doing PSSAs for every student in the middle school. Every grade does it, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We also have to do Keystone exams for the students taking up. So we'll be starting the process in May rather than in June. We also have about 108 students that are virtual. So we have to plan for that accordingly. And Leon and I have been going back and forth about transportation just to make sure we have an opportunity, all students, if they're virtual as well, to get to the building to take the PSSA assessments. Like Mr. Tack said, we will be sharing the communication out with parents shortly. And part of that communication will be, we'll have 2 days where the students that are in person will actually go to have an online, 2 online days. In that time, we will get the virtual students into the school because otherwise we can't fit them safely and following all the CDC guidelines. So that's what we're doing for middle school. Nothing's ideal this year, as everyone knows. And a lot of these challenges have become opportunities. And I don't know, Mr. Bradley, what you're referring to, but regarding the staff this year, you're probably aware how the students do on the PSSAs does not impact their evaluation this year. But like as Tim said, it's a good litmus test, if you will, to see where the kids are so we can make adjustments and improvements for next year. Like I said, so the dates will be the 17th, we'll do 3 sections of ELA, and the 18th, we'll do 2 sections of math, and that will be the in-person students. And then for the science, because only 8th grades take that, we can have the all virtual students along with the in-person students take the science assessment. Those virtual students will be down in the old cafeteria, and we can manage to do that and socially distance them. And then the 20th and 21st, that's when the virtual students will come into the school to take the PSSAs, and the students that come into person every day that have been coming in, they will be doing work at home, participating in Canvas assignments, because we need the staff to help administer the tests to those kids coming in. Because when you have special education students and all these other things, you have requirements with how big the test can be. So we do need all staff on deck to help with that. And again, like I said, with every student taking that and so many kids at the middle school that are in person, and then 110 kids coming in, we found that's the best way to do it. Again, nothing's ideal, but that's our plan. And then we get to the 24th and 25th, we'll have some makeup dates for everyone. And then we're waiting till the 26th and 27th to do the Keystone exam. That's for all the students. We have a couple students that are in algebra that are virtual, but they can come in those days, and we have a plan to put them in a room with a certified math teacher as well, so that they get the help that they need. And that's where we are with the middle school.
I appreciate that. I'll have to talk to you out of this meeting, apparently, to be more specific about the complaints that we were given.
You can share the complaints now with everyone.
Nah, we're fine. I'll reach out so that I can preserve privacy. I'll reach out privately and make sure that what was addressed, and if it was related to the stress that our staff is having with these things, hopefully it was all mitigated. And I thought, again, I was told you were aware of the situation.
No staff members complained to me, so if they complain to me, then I will deal with it. Otherwise, if we want to talk, we can talk with Mr. Cleaver and Mr. Tack.
Yeah, no problem. We'll reach out. Thank you.
Any other questions about the middle school PSSAs?
Okay, thank you, Dr. McGullough. I do know regarding that, and also with the PSSAs for the middle school, 8th grade, we will have certain students with algebra. So on that note, I'll turn over the Keystones to Mrs. Holland and Mr. Brown.
Sure. I'm just going to jump in here real fast, and no real different than the last month when we met and discussed. The high school already did their first round of Keystone assessments. On those days, we went virtual, as you said, to mitigate CDC and proper guidance on spacing of students, whether they're regular ed, special ed. That went off very well. Kudos to Mr. Brown, who's our testing coordinator for the district, for organizing that with Kathy Martin, our guidance counselor. The next round, which would be, because we are a block schedule, the spring session of assessments will take place May 17th, 18th, and 19th. And the order of that will be May 17th will be the biology assessment, the 18th will be literature, and the 19th will be algebra. And that's really it about the high school with assessments.
Okay. Any further questions dealing with the assessments by chance? Okay. The next item we have there is kindergarten registration. And Mr. Seblin, if you would like to please address that.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay, Mr. Tack?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we're very happy to announce that kindergarten registration is up and running. We are planning on having the kindergarten testing in person this year, the first 2 weeks of May at the elementary center. Very similar to what we've done before, but we'll be following all the health and safety protocol that we do have in place. We won't be able to host as many kindergartners as we typically would, and parents will have to kind of stay in the vestibule area while we get all their information. Although with the online process that we have in place, really everything is uploaded and ready to go. Parents are just verifying, who they are with proper, photo ID and all those kinds of things. But we did, contact different daycares and agencies. We always share that information with them so that they can get the information out to parents about the kindergarten registration and testing. We will be using the office suite in the elementary center as we've done in the past. So parents and kids will come into the vestibule at the K-2 side of the elementary center. We'll take their temperatures, the children, then we'll bring the children in and they will receive some screenings. They will be receiving some vision screening. They do a hearing screening. They meet with the teachers. They're given like a kindergarten entrance exam, if you will, just kind of finding out what their basic knowledge base is as they enter kindergarten. And it doesn't matter whether they score very high or very low, but it just gives us an idea of where the kids are falling. And then what myself and the guidance counselor will do is we'll make heterogeneous classes from that initial kindergarten assessment. The guidance counselors are available. The school nurses are available to, talk with parents and just kind of go over the paperwork to make sure, that they're ready to go, that they have all their immunizations and boosters prior to coming into kindergarten. Guidance counselors sit down with the parents and they, discuss any, socio-emotional issues with the kids, or if they're receiving any sort of early intervention support through the IU or another agency. So we try and make it real personable. It's last year we weren't able to do it in person, but in years past, the parents seem to really enjoy it. They get to see the school a little bit before the kids come in. It's really nice that the kids get to spend some time with the kindergarten teachers who do administer the test. So I did also send to Mrs. Partinio all the information, so that should be up on the district website. We sent something out to the local news media, just again, trying to promote the pre-registration process and the fact that we'll be holding the kindergarten testing the first 2 weeks of May. As of today, we have 91 total students registered for kindergarten. 21 of those 91 students are current pre-K counts students. So they've been, in our school in the pre-K counts program. And they're showing their kindergarten readiness. We'll actually start with some of those kids. They're already in the system, but we'll be assessing them during the day while they're already in school. We are also offering one night session for parents. So on May 11th from 4 to 8 p.m., we'll be able to host a few people that may not be able to come during the daytime hours. So we're really excited that, we can get back to a little bit of normalcy as far as the kindergarten registration and the testing process. It's worked really, really well in the past. And, we're just excited. Well, I'm always excited when we get to welcome in, our newest little students. I call them our little Indians as they come into the elementary center. Any questions on the kindergarten registration or the assessment?
Mr. Seblin, this is Rita. I just have a question. You said we have 91. Is that typical? Is that a higher number, lower number, same?
No, to be honest with you, it's about typical for
Okay.
this time of the registration process. No, I did look. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but in years past, we've been anywhere between 140 to 160. So typically, our numbers will fall, within that range. The majority of parents do register, ahead of time, but we will get some throughout the summer, whether they transfer in, whether they move into the district. Whether they come from a different platform or whatever. So this is pretty typical for this time of year. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
On that same note too, we're putting all our information together, and we just sent out an email and a voice alert tonight about the pre-K program. There's an open house for that next Thursday, the 15th. And that we're asking again for parents to call at the elementary center to Mrs. Schaefer and get the information, and then they will be contacted by Mrs. Maloney, one of our pre-K teachers, and they'll be setting up time slots for those students as well. So we currently will have 20 for the morning and 20 for the afternoon, and very excited, looking forward to that. We were originally slated to be filled this year to capacity, and then with COVID, that had its downfalls. But again, a great job going on there, and it's great to see the little ones in the building. So we do appreciate that. Any questions regarding kindergarten or pre-K registration? Okay, then the next item we had there, good of the order. Is there anything for good of the order?
Mr. Tack, I would just like to, if I could, Mr. Bradley, you said that you have had complaints that teachers are stressed over preparing for PSSAs. And I'm not looking for any names or specifics or anything, but is there something about this year that's different than other years that's making them stressed?
I'm sorry. Are you asking me that question?
Yes, I am. Because you said you were getting complaints. I was just wondering what they,
Yeah, I received complaints in reference to staff member in the elementary center. I was under the impression that Mr. Magala had taken care of it, at which point he's alluding to the fact that he doesn't know what I'm talking about, which is kind of strange to me. So I said I'll talk to him privately, would be the best interest.
Mr. Bradley, Mr. Magala is at the middle school. If it's an elementary issue, it would either be Mrs. Volsky or Mr. Seblin.
I agree, but I was under the impression that he was involved somehow. That's what I was told. So maybe the information needs to be corrected. That we'll find that out. But at the same time, I was under the impression it might have been related to whipping the students into shape for the PSSA and the stress for doing that in the current environment. Apparently it was not. So I'm sure that they will review that and we'll take care of it from there, Rita. But thank you for asking me that question.
Mr. Cleaver, I have a comment. First of all, thank you to all the presenters. I think they were very concise and got their information out there. The one question I guess I have would be for the high school, either Mrs. Holland or Mr. Brown, concerning the return of the students to the facility and how that worked out so far. I know you're only 2 days in, but usually the bumps in the road are in the first
Sure.
couple of days.
Hi, it's Mrs. Howland. I'm happy to answer that question. So obviously it's 2 days in. The students transitioned back yesterday. So far, things have gone well. They're following all our guidelines. Students are wearing masks. They are spacing in the classrooms. According to CDC, we can go as low as 3 feet. I'm not necessarily sure that most rooms are. I would say most rooms are approximately 4 to 6 feet. There might be several rooms that might have a little bit more crowding, like 25 to 28 students, and they've been spaced appropriately with mask on at all times. Lunchtime is being split between 3 lunches, an A, B, and C lunch. We are getting approximately 88 students spaced 6 feet apart in the cafeteria, and another 90 some are spaced in the auditorium, rotating through those 3 lunches. And we've been using the auditorium all year for lunches, so that transition and flow is seeming to work. Again, we're only day 2 into it, so I think everyone's doing a great job. It's great to see students back in the building. It's great to see students in the classrooms. Teachers, been around every room, checked in with people and staff. At this point, when I checked in today with staff and the union in that sense of nature, I've not gotten any complaints. Things so far seem to be moving smoothly. There's always going to be hiccups, as in anything, but we'll get through those.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, and I think there's one other hand up there I'm trying to get.
That was Miss Hollins.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I would like to thank everyone.
Hold on, Tim, Miss Bose.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. Miss Bose?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep, we can hear you.
All right. I had a question on the middle school as far as in virtual. What I was wondering on that is that also kids in cyber school, outside cybers, or are they tested by whatever cyber they attend?
I have Dr.
For
Magala.
PSSAs, I mean.
Yep. Well, just for clarification, the students that we are testing are our own LAVA students or virtual students. The students who attend out of district cyber programs like Commonwealth Connections or Agora, they take their own PSSA.
Okay, that was my question. I didn't know if it was just our LAVA or virtual students. Okay, that answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Magala, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, just to clarify, if there is a concern by any staff members, and I do meet with the union representatives once a month, if there's any questions, I'd be more than glad to help them. The last thing I want to do is our teachers to be stressed about anything. So if there is something in the middle school, it's never been brought to my attention. But if there is, please let me know and I'll do what I can to help our teachers out. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. McGraw. No other questions, Mr. Pack.
Okay. Well, again, I'd like to thank everyone for being here this evening. Our next academic affairs is Wednesday, May 5th. So we look forward to seeing you or in virtual at that time. And again, thank you. And we will have information coming out on the website with regards to the surveys for SEL and other items and information regarding the PSSAs and Keystones. So thank you and have a great evening. Enjoy this beautiful weather.